Morning, United States Congressman Bill Huizenga, Republican from Zeeland. Welcome back to the program.
Hey, MPS, good morning.
Well, interesting start to the year, at least for you anyway, now that the summer break is over and you're back in Washington and you are considering a seriously heavy-duty matter here. Well, what are your thoughts, first off, on where you stand? I know you've been having some town hall meetings. You're going to listen to the people that you represent before you decide to vote, right?
Yeah, we've done a number of town hall meetings, and it's interesting. It's overwhelmingly people are skeptical and opposed to the direction that the president's going. What's really interesting, though, is having people of Middle Eastern descent, some of them first generation or who had immigrated themselves, coming and saying, be careful. This is not going to go how you think it's going to go. It's not sending the messages that you think it is sending. And we've got to be very concerned. How is this going to be played on Al Arabiya and Al Jazeera and all of the other Arab media? And I'm afraid that without the Arab League and without Arab participation, this is going to be portrayed as a Western invasion of an Arab country, and that's problematic, obviously.
So the other Middle Eastern countries that surround or are allied with Syria are not outraged that they used chemical weapons, or do they deny the fact that they did?
Well, that's a good question, and you were leading in with the Russians, and it's sort of that same question. It's like, well, are you condoning the use of these weapons? The Russians are saying, well, there's no clear evidence that it was actually Assad in Damascus, and there was claims fairly early on that it was actually the rebels that used the chemical weapons. Everybody's pretty sure, though, that there's a track record with Assad, who, like his father, has killed tens of thousands of their citizens, and there's about 100,000 people that have died in Syria as of late. And why are we not more outraged about that? And if that's not a red line, how come suddenly, magically, because the president goes off a script and starts making foreign policy on ad lib, off the cuff comments, why is suddenly this the tripwire?
You know, the way that I hear it, there are two reasons for the United States to get involved. One is because there was this mass murder of over 1,000 people, and two, that it should be a deterrent against other countries for using chemical weapons. I know, obviously, the first one is a nice ideal, but will that be a deterrent, actually, especially when we've gone about it in such a middling process?
I think you are hitting the right questions there. Is this really going to be a deterrent? And as someone else said, this is probably going to look more like, paying a speeding ticket for folks like Iran and other places who, whether it's chemical or nuclear or other biologicals, are bad actors. And I just don't see the deterrence. Yesterday I was with Don Rumsfeld in Grand Rapids, and he's kind of been making some news on some of his comments, as you can imagine. But he had kind of a great quote, which was, a shot across the bow does nothing but create a splash. And that is, I think, true. What is the actual deterrent that's going to be coming out of it? And it seems to me that if you're not going to have broad-based and Arab-based opposition to this, who are willing to go in and do regime change, ultimately, what really is the deterrent? I don't see it.
So, if the vote were today, you would vote no?
Yeah, I'm not convinced. I don't think the president has made a case, and I've watched part of Secretary Kerry lecturing, not really testifying, more lecturing the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Obviously, nobody wants to see any regime doing this to their own people, to their enemies. Saddam Hussein gassed 5,000 Kurds at one point, not to mention what he did to the Iranians. There have been times where we have seen this, and it is outrageous. But the point, I think, is that are we truly going to be effective in deterring people if we don't have broad-based support? I do give the president credit. I was very critical after Libya that we were doing that. He was doing that without authorization, and it was way too narrow. It was not broad-based. He came to Congress at least this time because there was discussion of doing this unilaterally, just the U.S. on its own. I think that would even be a bigger mistake. But I don't see the coalition being built. And again, as one of the things that I think is important is that we have Arab League or at least Arab country participation in this.
If the president doesn't get the votes, can he go it alone? And will he?
I can't read his mind. Good question. Everybody thought he was going to be going it alone. If you read the media accounts, including his own staff, until he sort of magically decided that he was going to get authorization. Obviously, he argues that under the War Powers Act, he's got the ability to do that. And sort of aside from that, we're not sure what exactly he's going to do. I don't know. Will he go the way of sort of David Cameron, who took a rebuke from the British Parliament and said, all right, you know what, that means get the message loud and clear. That means that we're not going to do this. Or is he going to go it alone? I think is undetermined yet.
Only 20 seconds, but doesn't the president and the United States look terribly weak if he doesn't get the votes and he doesn't do anything?
I don't know how we look weak when we've got aircraft carriers parked off the coast of many of our enemies. So I think we're just fine.
Speak softly, carry a big stick, as they said back in the day. Congressman Bill Huizenga says he's not convinced yet the United States should get involved in military action in Syria.